I'm going to talk to you guys today about why I feel like most men are mistreated and misunderstood, and they're beaten down energetically by their partner, romantic partner, wherever that partner is, girlfriend, not boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, whatever it is. Most men are just really mistreated. And I'm going to take you guys my story so that you understand why most people overlook this fact about men. Why men are they have such a high rate of suicide, and why they feel so alone and so depressed on the inside. And they may look like everything on the outside is right, but it's not. Something is, it needs to be brought up to the surface, and they haven't dealt with it, or they can't deal with it at the moment because they aren't strong enough, they aren't aware enough. And so I'm gonna talk with you guys right now. I'm gonna get out my story to help myself, just really be 100% authentic. And also I'm gonna help the rest of the men out there to understand, just why it is that they feel so alone and they feel so helpless, and just so depressed and so sad. So my story starts off as, my name is Fidelis Anoka II. I'm the second. My father is Fidelis Anoka I. And I didn't live with both of my parents when I was born. I lived with my grandmother for some time. I lived with my mom by herself, like single mom. But I didn't have both of my parents for my entire life. But mainly, when I did see my mom and dad interact, it was always bad. It was always belittling. It was always an argument. But it wasn't an argument that was like a two-way argument. It was mainly like an argument that was something like a shaming type of thing, where my mom would shame my father a lot. She would make him feel really small, for things that he did or past transgressions or whatever he was involved in. And so my sister, my father's from Nigeria. My mom is from Parks, Louisiana. I'm assuming she was born in Lafayette, Louisiana, because that's like the city, like the closest city. That's where I was born. But she's from a small town called Parks, Louisiana, in Bridge Parish. And I believe my parents met in college at ULL, which is called right now. It was called USL back in the day, but now it's called ULL, Louisiana Lafayette. But when they went to school, it was called Southwestern Louisiana. So what I've noticed over the course of subconscious programming, I'm very big into vibration, very big into frequency, very big into programming. So from the ages 0 to 7, you get programmed to see, your culture, your environment, your community around you. And you recreate that environment whenever you get older. That's just how subconscious programming works. So what I noticed about my dynamic of my mom and dad, their relationship, was that they had a lot of anger towards each other. I didn't understand why. My sister is 4 years older than me. She lived overseas with them before she came back here. I never have been out the country or been to my father's hometown, but she had. And I believe my mom, she spoke on it with me, not much, but she spoke on it, and she said, I just wasn't happy there. They had other ideas for me there, and I just wasn't happy there, so I decided to come back. But the thing is that my mom decided to come back almost like to find her way where she really wanted to be, but also she came back to like a struggle. And so, she was a single mom at the time. I believe she was still married to my father at the time. They're currently divorced now. I'll get into that later on. But what happened was, she moved back and went back to college and everything, and my father came, he followed her back here. But what I didn't understand was just how much anger and animosity my mom had towards my father for whatever had transpired in the past. What I noticed about single moms is that they always make it out to pick a side, and they make you look at the other person like the other person is wrong because they're putting their own perception and belief inside of that situation. My father is a wonderful person. He's an amazing person. He's an amazing man. You know, he has his faults. Everybody has things that they, I'm sure, aren't proud of that they do. One of the things that he does is whenever he's in fear, he lies. He'll make something up that he can't sustain, but because of the fear of maybe seeing somebody sad, he says he can do it anyway, but he won't do it. Like, I'll call you, and he won't call, or, you know, I'll do this for you, and he doesn't do it. But it's mainly just to make somebody feel like, you know, at that moment, I can come through for you, and I'll do my best, you know, but if it falls through, then it falls through. But he'll promise things and he'll say things that he's not really committed to. One thing that I noticed about my mother is that the way she spoke to him was almost like whatever they had to endure in the past, she always brought it up, and she always made him feel like he can't leave that behind him. He has to constantly feel that he's hurt her in some way, shape, or form. He has to constantly feel like he's the reason for her unhappiness or her misery. It's his fault. And my father, he grew up very privileged, I believe. He had a lot of money, you know, he had things. He had assets, he had things. He had a lot of things that he could use, a lot of assets that he could use at the time. But when he met my mother, and I don't know how this worked out in terms of like when I was born, but I didn't grow up with the same, like, you know, him living in a castle and the compound where he's from and stuff like that. I didn't grow up with that type of stuff. I grew up in student housing, single family apartment, like two-bedroom apartment, bunk beds, stuff like that. I didn't grow up with all of that things. But what I always noticed about my mom and dad's dynamic was the way that she spoke to him. She brought a lot of anger and a lot of rage towards him. And I don't think it was deserving of all of it, because I don't think he was deserving of everything. You know, like, people don't look at it from they play a part in things. They don't look at it as they play a part in anything. And I'm guaranteed, you know, I promise you, like, the both sides, they probably had both of their issues. I just remember hearing a story about domestic violence where my parents got in a fight, like physical fight, altercation, and they both went to jail. I believe my sister told me this story. And it made me sad. Like, why would you, you know, be able, like, why would you express that much anger and hate and rage amongst each other from somebody that you're supposed to love? So I started to dive into patterning, sacred geometry, just patterns of relationships, patterns of people. And I started to look back at, because I lived with my grandmother for a short time when I was growing up. And then before my father came back, he was gone whenever I was really, really young. And he came back mainly because of the disharmony in my mother and father's relationship. And I was not mad at my father. I'm not mad at my mom. You know, that's their relationship. But I started to see that disharmony comes in to different places, and it's just a pattern, a repeat of their own upbringing. My father, he basically had the Coming to America story, like the Eddie Murphy movie. You know, he had like his own section in the house. It's almost like he was separated from his family when he was growing up. And I didn't know that my father's mom, he's only 13 years older than him. And that must be, at that time, maybe like a Nigerian thing, or a prosperous Nigerian thing, where, you know, they assign like men, I guess, to take care of the young women and the young girls, and they groom them from however young to how they are now. And so at this moment, of 9 siblings on my father's side of the family, I believe it's him and maybe his sister and his younger brother. I think it's like 3 of them remaining. The rest of them all have passed on or transcended, all because of their lifestyle. My father's the oldest, which is mind-blowing to me, that he's the oldest, and in their family dynamic, the rule is that the oldest is the kind of like the overseer for the rest of the kids. So he gets to take care of all the assets. He gets the most money, things like that. That's how it worked in my own upbringing. My sister was older than me by 4 years, so she would get everything. Like, if there's allowance of $100 for her, it'd be like $40 for me, stuff like that. But she still always she hooked me up. My sister was just like my idol. Like, still to this day, she's like an icon in my life. She's just a person I've always told myself the good side of her I would express. But what I noticed about that dynamic was that my mom's patterning in her upbringing is completely opposite of my father. He grew up prosperous. My mom grew up in like a 2-bedroom house with 10 people, or 9. I'm not sure how many siblings my mom actually has, but she was like the youngest girl in her family, and she has 2 younger brothers. But what I noticed was that the way that the women treated the men was really difficult. The women were very harsh in her family on all of their spouses, including my grandmother. I never met my grandfathers on either side, my mom or dad's side. My grandmother, she had lost her leg in an accident. This is on my mom's side of the family, so my grandmother on my mom's side. And I never understood how she did it until somebody told me the story about it. And there was a accident, I believe, crossing the street, gambling and drinking, something like of that nature. Something of low vibrational status. That's how she obviously lost her leg. And my grandfather, he died in 1979, which is my mother's father. She talks about him like she raves about him. He's the most amazing man, all these things. But something has to be, brought up or expressed in honesty, where how did he actually die? Like, I'm talking about in terms of energy. Is somebody wishing hatred or something? Like, what is this about? And so I started to look at it from all of my aunts. The majority of my aunts are still alive, I believe, except for my mom's oldest sister. She had type 1 diabetes, and she transcended a few years ago. But the rest of them are still here, but their husbands are not. Their husbands are not. They never had a harmonious relationship. And many of them also are overweight. So I always ask myself, who's the culprit? Like, why is it that so many men are in relationships and they're not able to find harmony with the relationship? And why is it that they have this happy wife, happy life thing, it's spoken out into existence all over the world for men to focus on the woman's happiness but forget about their own? So back to my father, it seems that when he came here to this country, he seemed to forget about his own happiness. He was attempting to recreate it from where he was at and send it back. He was a master car salesman. He was a car salesman in Lafayette, Louisiana. He's obviously one of the best in the business, because I used to come home and see, those huge checks, like the ones that you get like assigned when you win something, and he would always seem to be salesman of the year or this or the month or what. He was always getting accolades for what he was doing, but I believe he was doing things too small. He was just doing them too small. He had bigger dreams and visions and goals, but he never was supported in them because the person alongside him did not have the same vision. And it's an effect. It has a hindrance. I used to do commercials, and I used to be like the child star, I guess you could say. Not really like a star, but I used to do like commercials as like a child, and they asked me to do a few things. I remember this was like a long time ago, and I went to go do one, and I remember my mom pulling me from it, and I couldn't do it anymore. And she said my aunts, they kind of scared her off from allowing me to pursue anything past that. And it just started to make me sad. Like, everyone influences you to take away instead of to grow and to expand. So I looked at it from a perspective of my father, and I said, gosh, what if this man just wanted to grow and expand, and you didn't want to grow and expand with him? And you took that pattern of behavior and you blamed him for your unhappiness and your grief because you had incoherence in your own mind and heart. It's not anybody's fault that you felt the way that you felt, And so now my sister, I love my sister. She's amazing. But it's like, it's stagnant. Like, she stopped pursuing taking risk and, courage. And it was really weird to see, because this is a person that I looked up to, that doesn't matter what the door was. It doesn't matter what room she had to go in. She walked right through the room with her head up. And she just figured out how to do it, whether somebody needed help or not. And usually I was the one that needed help because I wasn't the one that was getting any help. So she would find a way to get me some help. And, it was just, gosh, it just made me feel so aware, like enlightened. Like, look at these patterns. All the women in my mom's family have inharmonious relationships. So why would my sister have a harmonious relationship? She wanted to know how to do it. All she saw when she was growing up was probably domestic dispute and arguing and fighting and all types of things. How would she know how to do that? How would she know how to talk to a man, or how to approach a man, or how to, be a teammate in her family? She wouldn't know. She wouldn't know how to do that, because that wasn't really how the dynamic was working. I think my father's goal was to get all of us to go back to his home, which my sister had brought up a few months ago to me. She said, yeah, I'm going to go take a visit back to Africa. I was like, that's so beautiful, But, just make sure you're fine, and you're not going to go, to do anything the family wants you to do. You do it for yourself. She said, yeah. And it just makes me question, like, the entire time I've been told that this person is bad, negative. Are they really that bad and that negative? Because I was recreating the same dynamic in my own relationship with my ex-wife. She's currently my ex-wife, but she actually asked me to marry her today. Again, because we've been dating since we've been divorced. And, she's wonderful. She actually told me to go on camera and to do this. So she encouraged me to do this. And I'm grateful that she did. But it brought out where I was recreating these same situations in my own life. So finally I was like, okay, what's going on in my own world, and what's going on in, like a family dynamic of my own family and everything. I decided, and actually my ex-wife, she encouraged me to help more men, because I kind of came to an epiphany that this was what men need in order to move forward in their life, because most men are stagnant and they're depressed and they're feeling lonely, and they're going to go get the millions of dollars, and they're going to go get the nice cars, and they're going to go get the nice houses, and they're going to go get, have the nice business and serve the community, but they just are unhappy on the inside and unfulfilled on the inside, and they have not found something that lights them up and keeps them lit up, because many times they're being interfered with destructively by their own spouses, their partners, romantic partners. But it's because we've been taught that it's like a happy wife, happy life thing, but it's not. The women have been taught like it's like a fairy tale, like Disney fairy tale, like Cinderella. So it's not like that. Like, you have a 90% one day, 10% one day, Maybe 10% on your side, 90% on the other side, 50% on this side, 50% on this side, 40, 60, 70, 30. It's like that. It's like a dynamic. It just goes. It's like a wave. And if you just know that you have ultimate love and respect for yourself and you're authentic and you're your whole self, then it works. But as I talk about subconscious programming, all I saw from my mom and dad was separation, disharmony, and ultimately divorce. Where my mom actually called me 2003 and asked me, 2004, and asked me to go to my father's house and get him to sign the divorce paperwork, because she said she sent it to him and he got served and he wouldn't sign it. And I remember having to go to my father's house, and not having to go, but going to my father's house in the summer of 2004 and requesting he sign the divorce papers. And he freed himself and my mom from the dynamic. And he did sign the divorce papers. I don't know if he told everybody he was divorced, but I know he signed the paperwork. You know, my mom still actually has his last name, which is awkward to me, because it's like, if you're divorced, why you still have his last name? You don't have to keep his last name. Go back to your maiden name. You know, go back to your old name. You shouldn't be consciously kept in that same space. So ultimately, this is what happens. I looked at my mom's history and I said, your history can't be all that clean if you created the same dynamic that your mother had with her relationship. And I'm actually truly grateful that my father got away from that relationship, because, you know, he's still here today. You know, he's not healthy. He has a valve in his heart that was replaced. You know, so diet-wise, I feel like women have a really powerful hold on food in terms of the family dynamic, because women are the nurturers of a relationship. So if they eat bad, the rest of the family probably eats bad too. And so my family dynamic was, you know, we came from a lot of meat. You know, my father ate a lot of meat. My mother's family, they ate a lot of meat as well. I'm plant-based now for over 7.5 years. So I don't eat any of that. I'm predominantly frugivore, and I love it. It's changed how I look at the world. It's changed how I look at myself. But mainly what I'm saying again is that there's things that women are known for, they have a part of, and they have not actually taken accountability for. And so I feel the need to step up to say that maybe the relationships that are not going well are because of the energy that's being put out. So I'm going to talk to you all about my own personal relationship with my ex-wife. And what happened to me was, she was very mean. She was very mean, and she was very manipulative in a way where it was deception, where I thought one way because of what was being said, but the energy that's being bestowed or showed was the complete opposite. There's also a lot of greed, a lot of gluttony, a lot of, I'm gonna keep everything to myself and not help you make your life easier, but I'm only gonna take you making my life easier, and that's how the love should be. And so it was completely a one-sided affair. And also, whenever I hope people understand this, whenever you get married to their family. So if their family does not approve of you, or does not approve of your dreams and goals, or whatever you want to go do with your life, you also have that as an influence that serves as something that blocks you from having acceptance of yourself. You know, her family was just very, at the time, you know, I don't know much about them now. I don't speak to them really that much now, but very ignorant family. You know, you can call it racist, but I don't really look at racism as that even isn't a word. I think it's just ignorance of energy. They were just very unaccepting of me being who I am. And I understand many reasons why, but ultimately the reasons don't make sense. You know, if you look at it from a golden rule perspective, you don't put out energy like that with intention to do things like that. So I received a lot of hate from my ex-wife, a lot of anger, rage from her, mainly because I focus on lifelong learning and changing, because I feel like you can't stay the same from one place to the next. You've got to change. You got to be able to take a risk. You got to be able to have courage to go uplift yourself, to go to new places and new spaces and just do the right things, for you to get where you got to get to and just be a better person, be a bigger person. And ultimately, you're going to find the happiness in the journey, in the adventure. So to this day, you know, I've been punched, I've been kicked, I've been mistreated in many ways, but it's my fault. So men, I want you all to realize it's all your fault, because you enabled somebody to do that. You allowed them to do that. You enabled somebody to do that, and you allowed them to do that to you. You didn't set a boundary where you said, this is not acceptable in my life. I didn't set a boundary. I remember living in my ex-wife and my two dogs. We lived in her car. She had a little small Kia Spectre 5, and we would stay on the side of PCH Highway for like all of 2022. You know, we basically lived in our car on the side of the highway next to like Trinkus Canyon Parkway. We would park on the side, and we would just, you know, camp out basically inside of our car. It was actually a really beautiful place and space. So it wasn't like we weren't in a safe space. We were in a really great space. But what happened was, I wanted to go this way, upwards to this way, and she wanted to go towards whatever way that she thought was secure, this way. And I only know that you can only go upwards if you become lighter and you become a better person. So the bigger person that you become means the more godly you become, the more divine you become, the more forgiving you become. And that's where I was looking at, we have to keep climbing the ladder. And she was like, no. So I remember one night, you know, and this is just in the recent, like the most recent 2 years. Like there's more stories than this, but this is the physical domestic dispute. So I'm talking about men who are in this domestic disputes. You know, I'm talking with her, and she's just yelling at me, just upset, just, everything is your fault. You're not doing this. You're not bringing in this. You're not making anything. You're not doing anything. And it was like, I had started this company. We had first started this company in 2019, where we were going to make Anoka Wellness Services Incorporated, basically our last name, and then we were going to make a whole wellness company, a holistic health company. And you know, we were focused on plant-based and holistic healing and all these things. But this is like right before COVID, so nobody really was looking for that. They weren't looking for that. By this time, about 2022, they're looking for it a little bit, but still not as much as they are right now, which is great. It's remarkable what's going on right now. But at the time, she wasn't convinced that it was even do anything. We had just got out like this financial scam, you know, this like money laundering scam that they were using us, essentially me mainly. You know, these I believe they were Nigerian or African in some way. They were using us in our bank accounts. They do it now. Like you go to like investor.com, you got to be careful if you're trying to go to invest. But you got to have vibration when you go find these things, because people, you know, they'll fit you into a category and they'll basically romance scam you. So they had us doing it or had me mainly doing it for like about over a year, you know, sending money saying you need to reach this level of this quota so that you can get your investments, that you can go do whatever projects that you want to do. And it was all false. It was all lie. And it's mainly because I took a loss where I should have gone in to go get more. I should have asked for more honesty and transparency, but I took a loss and I said, no, I can only do this much. I didn't understand how capital worked, financing worked, and I didn't understand how investing worked at the time. I understand it completely now, thankfully, but you know, so she held that towards me for a long time, and I understood why. Mainly one of the things that I did when I took that investment of the scam was, I remember I was talking to my mom about which one I should take, and my mom was so convinced that I should take a opportunity that can help my sister, because at the time she was going to be going, you know, back into the medical field, and she wanted to get to a hospital to work. And these guys had basically spoken to my mom, and then, you know, my mom kind of helped to convince me to go through with the scam, but she didn't know it was a scam. My mom knew, she wouldn't have told me anything about that. But her primary goal is to help my sister, so I want to help my sister too. I just remember the time of the domestic dispute between my ex-wife and I. You know, she was just bringing up so much old things, and she was just so belittling to me. She spoke to me any type of way, just treated me any type of way. And I felt so small in my own self because of all the things that I had to go through, all the failures that I had, all the mistakes that I made, and I'm being reminded of them constantly. And what it reminded me of was how my mom used to talk to my father the same way. You know, he used to have, I guess he had past partnerships or relationships. You know, he had things, you know, outside children or whatever he did. But I believe he was just trying to find his way to be happy. And my mom never actually asked herself, what part do I play in making him run away to go find somebody else? She never actually asked that. I know she didn't, because she still to this day is still bitter about it. And I'm like, all you gotta do is ask yourself, what are you doing that's making somebody run away from you and not running towards you? What energy are you putting out that's causing this person to look at you this way and run that way? You know? And so I was looking at it from that point. Like, my ex-wife was the same way, and she's, you know, kicking me in the car. It wasn't like constantly. She only did like once or twice, where she just kicked me and said, get away from me. And I wasn't doing anything to her. I was just attempting to help her to see that she's seeing things in a completely fight or flight way, you know, and it hurt. It really hurt. Like, why is this person mistreating me this way? Now, you know, we had left California 2021, November 2021. You know, all this stuff with the scammers finally blew over. Essentially, you know, the Department of Homeland Security, all these people, like, they had to come to teach me. First of all, they came to come to search, and then they had to teach me, like, okay, you're in this, we'll get you out of this. You know, you need to, you know, take care of your business right, do things right, because right now you're tangled with these people who are not right. So I had to understand that. Got it. I remember going back home to Georgia, and this is like during the time still like COVID is like kind of fresh in the South. So my mother and sister didn't allow me to come back home. I had my two pit bulls. We had stayed at my mom's house 2019 for a short time before we moved to California, after we moved from Florida. But she told me I couldn't come home. You know, I guess it was like a safety thing where they were so worried about me because I wasn't vaccinated. So that was a whole thing in itself. I refuse to this day to do any of that vaccination stuff. I think it's foolishness, and I think people don't understand how powerful they really are. So that's an argument for a different day. But I didn't get to do that. So we stayed at my friend's house, essentially like my brother, G, and his mom, she's like my stepmom. Anything I need, you know, their family's always taking care of. So, but I stayed at their house, where at the time it was very, very low vibrational. You know, a lot of just things that weren't good, weren't healthy, you know, drug, alcohol. I don't smoke, I don't drink. So I was around things that weren't very beneficial for me and my dogs. And my ex-wife was there with me for about a month and a half. And everything gets taken away from us. So car repossessed, you know, everything is gone. Everything is taken away. And I'm just sitting there with my two dogs. And finally, my ex-wife says, I want to leave. I'm out of here. So I find her some credit. I get her some, you know, cards and things, and I get her a ticket, and I fly her back to her parents' house. And later on that year, I decided to drive myself cross country with my dogs because I couldn't take the energy I was receiving then back in Georgia. So I came back to California. I remember experiencing like freedom, like I was free. You know, I had stopped on the way to see my ex-wife, and I wasn't met with like some happy hug and welcoming time. And I understand, you know, still may be fresh to people's minds, especially women's mind. But I started to realize that I was never in a committed partnership or relationship ever. I was always on an island by myself. No matter if I felt like I was married or not, I wasn't really married. I was just there, and this person had my last name. If I was to fall, they would throw me under the bus and let me fall by myself. They wouldn't fall with me. They'd be the first person to jump into the lifeboat and let me just sink with the ship. And so that was the first time I had got left. You know, it wasn't the first time I had got left. I mean, along the course of my own life, you know, I've come home to an empty house. My mom and dad left me. You know, my sister, she went to school at Howard University, wonderful, awesome university. But I was 11 years old, I believe, when she got up to leave to go to college. So I was kind of like not single or like a only child, but for the rest of my middle school to high school, I was pretty much by myself. But thankfully, she was always there to fly me out whenever I needed to, and she would take me on trips and everything. She was really great to me because she knew how much I was going through and what my parents weren't capable of. She kind of knew. I didn't know much, but she kind of knew. She kind of saw. So the blessing that came from me being able to go to new places and new spaces was that I got to find myself. But when I finally got back to California, and my ex-wife actually, she made her way here in the springtime. We were transitioning to full entrepreneurship, and then she got up and she quit another time, and she said, I'm just gonna leave you here. And she just got up and started driving back home, and her family said I could not come back to her space. I wasn't allowed there. Which, it was kind of it kind of hurt, but again, I understand it. But I think it was, right at the moment? No, I feel like you could have, made a different choice, but again, I completely understand. I'm not bitter towards them. To this day, I still don't know if they even have a picture of me inside their house, which was kind of rough for me to be able to endure. That I walk into a place or a space and I didn't even know if I was accepted by those people. So many times I just felt on an island by myself in my own relationship, and I feel like that's a lot of times men go through that same process. I didn't hit my ex-wife. She had her, she kicked me, told me to get away, all these things. 3 times on separate occasions, the police came and found us inside a parking lot and sat me down and talked to me. This was the time where I was helping her to transition from and being an employee to full entrepreneur. She was a private chef at the time. She was doing a great job, but she just wasn't believing much in herself. And I was like, you got to keep taking every opportunity that comes so you keep learning your skills, keep honing your skills. I'll drive you, I'll help you, I'll help you to market, to do the websites and content and whatever else you need. And it was just a lack of confidence based on her own upbringing in subconscious programming. But I had to take most of it. I had to take pretty much all of it. So a lot of times parents fail their children, and they don't see that children are following their example. And so what happened then after that was the second time I got left twice by my ex-wife. Once in the Malibu parking lot, Ralph's parking lot. Or no, actually it was it's like a shopping center. So it's like a Malibu shopping center, and right next to like a Whole Foods and all these things. We were like next to like a library. She just left me in the parking lot. I remember that day. And so I just remember being on my own for a long time. And the entire time she was requesting a divorce, the entire time she was requesting all these things. Like, it's your fault, I don't need to be here. And so I'm expressing to men right now is that don't believe that, because it's not necessarily true. It's mainly true that they aren't happy, but it's not your fault that they're not happy. You can't do anything about that. They have to fix their own happiness. So I saw it from my mom's perspective and also from my ex-wife's perspective. And so I shifted everything I was doing. Started to find my own love for myself. So I realized that every time I had an idea, I used to have aspirations and dreams of playing in the NBA. So 2014, I started going through the process. And 2015, I was traveling. 2016, I was traveling. 2017, I was traveling. And my ex-wife never came to watch me train until 2018. The last, I think, December 28, 2018, she came to finally watch me train myself. She didn't even know how good I was. You know, and she got to meet my trainers and everything, and it was pretty cool that she got to go do it, but it's pretty sad that it took her about 5 years to, actually go check it out. And so you start to see that people who may say they have your vision and their best interest in mind don't, because it's only for some sort of gain, whether it's financial gain or whatever it is, status gain. It's usually just status. It's not really financial gain. They can make their own money, but usually it's just a status type of thing. And you start to see that they're never really down for you the way you think that they're down for you. They're really not. They don't really care too much about your success. They care about what can your success bring towards them. That's the person I believe she was. It starts to see that men, they have a hard time because they're trying to differentiate, trying to sit there and say, okay, I have to make more money, I have to have the nicer house, I have to live in a castle on top of the hill. But they forget that they're doing all these things to get status, acceptance, but are you doing it for self-love purposes? I love nice things. I love luxurious things. Now, I love it. I think I deserve all of it. I know how to do it. I just know how to just keep going down to run the marathon and keep going until I get the thing. I know how to do all that. But prior, I was doing it because I needed to have acceptance from people on the outside, because I wasn't 100% whole from within. I wasn't secure within myself. Now I am. I have full on, I'm secure. So it's easy for me. So what I see myself now is I don't have to look at myself in like a fake way. But I see most men, they go get these fake women with fake butts and fake BBLs and fake, eyelashes and fake, everything is fake. Their mind is fake. Their character is fake. They're not even living authentically. So you see that the people who attract people like that are the same people. So once I started to wake up to myself and say, you know what, I started meditating. 2019, I started meditating. Dr. Joe Dispenza. Just kept on doing it for, even now, today, I still do it. Just kept on going, kept on doing it, kept on doing it, kept on doing it. Finally, I just told myself, you know what, it's working. All this is working because I'm starting to see myself in a different way. I'm starting to have more self-love for myself. So finally, let's roll it around to the vision. We had a business vision, my ex-wife and I always told myself I'm going to have this company that's going to heal 8 billion people on this world, on this planet. It's going to be the best thing. But it's going to be the best thing holistically, help everyone heal, help everyone be well. And I'm so happy to have this thing, right? And I just have to have belief in it 100%. And I can honestly say that I was by myself the entire time, maybe until maybe just a few weeks ago, maybe like days ago, did I feel like my ex-wife actually said, this is a great thing and I believe 100% in what you do and everything that you do. Because it takes a while for you to, I make cleanses, I make detoxes, I make programs to transform your subconscious mind, heal your chakras. And for some people it takes longer than others because they have a lot of toxicity inside of them. Generational toxins and chemicals and patterns that aren't healthy. Finally, whenever I realized this person just might be purified from the inside out. Maybe not, 100%, but close. It's not like when it first started. I might be able to build with this person as an asset, but you still look at yourself like a dog that's been kicked. And you're doing your best to say, maybe this is going to work out this time around. So men, what I suggest for you all to do is to go really look in the mirror and say, all the things that you've been through, right? There's a purpose in all of it. Don't feel like you have to run away from life because you're here for a reason. Don't feel like you have to run away from your kids. Don't feel like you have to run away from anything. Don't feel like you got to go jump off the bridge or off the cliff. This is bad, this isn't working. I've had all types of stuff happen to me, man. God's gonna take care of it, but you gotta give it to God and let God take care of it. You gotta give it up to God and let God handle it for you. You gotta give it up to the Creator and let the Creator handle it for you. And when you do that, the Creator gives you back the most abundance that you ever could have, because you give up all your problems, and mainly the problem of your relationship. You got to become the person that you want to attract. Once I decide to look in the mirror and say, I can't take someone disrespecting me all the time. I can't take someone raising their voice to me all the time, talking to me like they're a man. I'm not going to put my hands on them. So I can't raise my voice to talk to a person that's half my size. I'm not doing that. I think once I started to raise myself and my status and care about myself more, I started to say what I can accept and what I can't accept. And I began to be very vulnerable and transparent, and I began to be very honest and accountable for how I felt. Once I took accountability for how I felt, I stopped allowing people to make me feel a certain type of way, because I realized I'm the one that feels the type of way because I'm the one that chose to feel that way. I don't want to feel that way. So if I don't want to feel that way, somebody's putting an energy into me that I don't like, I just tell them to stop it. Or I just walk away, because I have the right. And I have the power to do so. So I feel like men, you're trying to make things work when they shouldn't be working. You need to make yourself work. If you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm the reason why I haven't been working, it's not the lady's fault. It's your fault. Once you become bigger and big enough, my father didn't do it. He should have done it. I'm looking at it now and I'm meditating on it now, and I'm like, man, if you just stepped up a little bit more, where you loved yourself more and gave yourself more. He used to drink. I don't know if he drinks still. He used to smoke too. I don't know if he smokes still. I know he was doing it, years ago. But that's a way of running away from your true self. You run towards yourself and you dissolve those addictions. You go into the gym, you go get healthy, you go get wealthy. You start to become your real authentic self because you believe in what the Creator's doing for you. It's helping you. It's helping you. I've been left on the side of the road. Literally, got up and left on the side of the road. I've been like, kicked is an understatement. 4 times actually, I've run into the police on behalf of my ex-wife, where I almost get picked up. My dogs get separated from me. I almost get in that sort of trouble. It's all based on imagination and intention. And she admitted to me, she said, yeah, I hated you. Said it was all your fault. Everything was your fault. I blamed my family. I blamed my parents. I blamed you for all of my misery. I didn't take accountability for anything. Most women don't. And I feel like most men take accountability for things that they don't even know that they're taking accountability for. So I feel like you need to actually go through the process and ask those questions. Not only for yourself, but to your partner. Ask those questions. And really look at yourself in the mirror and say, is your life worth it? My ex-wife told me today, she said, would you like to get married again? I was like, I thought about it, and it sounds enticing. He said, let me actually go up in there to be honest first, and let me see how that makes me feel. Because she wasn't a very good person. She said she felt like a white racist witch. That's how she was looked down upon. And I said, well, maybe that's because you were. And again, I don't really look at the word racism. I look at it more so of ignorance, but maybe that's what you were expressing outwardly, and that's what you deserve to get back. Finally, when she looked at herself in the mirror, she said, you know what? I can respect that, and I can change it. I can respect that, and I'll change it right then. It's people who can go from thinking to doing and being that are the most powerful. And so I feel like men don't go to, look, your car collections are great, but they're just an escape. Your wine collection is also great, it's just an escape. The bigger the yacht, It's just an escape. The private jet planes, and I'm not saying for you not to have them. I'm saying for you to have them because you like them, not because you have to have acceptance from the people, because you don't have acceptance from yourself, from the inside. Go get whatever you want. Go get 10 Phantoms, Cullinan, Rolls Royces, sports cars, Lamborghinis. Go get as many as you want. Go get as many as you want, but just do it because you really want to do it, and you really like what you're gonna go get. You want to live on top of the castle and on Sunset Boulevard in a 40,000 square foot house with 30 car garage, and go do that. Go, if it's gonna make you really happy because you choose to do it, not because you feel like people have to say, oh, you're doing a great job, and then you're gonna be happy. Don't do it because of that. That's not what you want to do. Look at your family history. Look at your own family history, your own dynamic of how your father was treated. Look at your parents' relationship. Most people don't understand that the harmony comes from the love between your family members, like your parents. You learn everything from your parents. So if your parents had a harmonious relationship growing up and you got to see that, you pretty much mimic what your parents have. That's why it's like a cheat code. Love, real love. Loving yourself and then loving your spouse. Really, that's really like a cheat code, because people don't have that in this day and age. Family dynamics pretty much destroyed, and people become enablers of people's bad habits. Don't be an enabler of your own bad habits or your spouse's bad habits. Stick up for yourself. Stick up for yourself, towards yourself, to yourself. Stick up to yourself. Really look at yourself and admire yourself. Start to be able to say, I love myself, and I'm gonna do different things. There's too many men walking around with big bellies, and there's too many feminine men, over feminized men. Not enough in the balance of masculine and feminine. They're too sensitive. I used to be this way. I'm telling you, I used to be overly on this side, allowing myself to get beat on this side, allow myself to get energetically beat, not beat like with the belt, but beat with energy. Finally, I said, you know what? That's not good enough. I can't lead anybody doing this like this. I have got to understand that it's not about happy wife, happy life. It's about happy spouse. Creates a happy house. I have to be a happy spouse. Once I learned that, I just gave up all of that. Started to understand that I can hold people accountable, hold my wife accountable for how she speaks. Hold my partnership, because I hold myself accountable for it. If you can't take it, then you can't take it. And that was pretty much it. So the intent is to teach people. My ex-wife is not like that at all today. She's night and day. She is like complete 360. She's done the work on herself. She's going in and, constantly been writing, journaling, meditating, changing her diet, especially, she cleansed herself. Her weight was fluctuating up and down. All these things, she was getting right with herself along the way, and she was just figuring out how to let everything go. And finally, she really came to a point where now she's just clean, just pure. She's not drawing in bad people anymore. She was drawing in people who reflected the way she thought about the world. She drew in women that were the same way, that belittled men in the same way, masculine women. You don't want to have disharmony from within, because that's what you'll continue to draw that into your life all the time. So luckily I made it through that fire point, but it wasn't because God put me through a fire to say he wanted to hurt me or harm me, just to mold me into something that's brand new. So I respect all of my situations in life that I've gone through. I'm grateful for every one of them. Being left on the side of the road, being left with my dogs with no money, having my house raided by Department of Homeland, and being scammed by, romance scammers during COVID, not being able to have my business get off the ground, not being able to do so many things because I felt so limited in my head, being unsupported in my dreams and goals by my ex-wife, not playing in the NBA because I basically was just tired of traveling and trying out, and it just, everyone didn't want me to win. That was really hard too. I didn't have anyone that really supported me in terms of winning. You know, giving money to someone is not actually support in some cases. All money's not great money, you know, so I started to understand that that was another thing too. I was basically building my own agency from ground up. But it's mainly the energy that you need to be able to go through a process. It's the energy, not just the energy of money. So that was a big thing for me to understand, you know, and you know, I'm grateful about sleeping inside my car with my 2 dogs. I'm grateful for not eating for days and days, and I'm grateful for, you know, still sitting at the Mayborn courtyard, changing up my websites and recording my content. I'm still grateful for all of it. Mentoring people along the way. I hadn't even had it yet. You know, I'm just helping people, but it didn't matter. Just I'm truly grateful for it. So I'm here for the men. You know, I've transitioned myself to my specific role in my own company is to help the men that are struggling. Doesn't matter if you got $1 to your name or $100 billion. If you're struggling, it's usually the same reasons why. I help high net worth individuals, professional athletes, you know, celebrities, whatever you are, it doesn't matter. You need some help, man, come to my page. Come check out my profile on TikTok. I share all types of videos, all types of things, you know, that can help you to understand what you're going through and guide you along the way. Because you need to be your biggest fan. You need to be your #1 fan first and foremost. And then if you can do that, believe in yourself 100%, everyone else around you will then believe in yourself. They'll believe in you too. But it starts with you. I've learned never to doubt myself or the creator of the God within me. So please, guys, don't jump off the cliff. Don't jump off the bridge. Don't take the gun to your head. Don't do any of that stuff. Don't take the pills. Don't drink the alcohol. Stop smoking the weed. Stop taking the drugs. Stop going to get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 partners. Stop having sex all over the place. Just stop. Stop right there. Look in the mirror and just say, what do I really need that's gonna make me me? That's gonna make me whole. And I guarantee you're gonna get the answer right then. It's gonna say, let go of this, let go of that, let go of this, let go of that, let go of this, let go of that, let go of that. And all you gotta do is say, I'm ready. And then just do what it says. Changing up your gut, your diet, your lifestyle, that's gonna help you. 100% is gonna help you. Learning about spirituality, about how you really work, how your masculine energy works, your feminine energy inside you works. Learning about these things is gonna help you to have a wonderful, sustainable lifestyle, because happiness to me is not being too high. It's not being smiling all the time. It's also sadness isn't being too low. I look at it as neutrality creates my happiness. I'm neutral. I'm neutral to everything. Find that within yourself. And I guarantee you guys are gonna thrive. Check the link in my profile. Like, share, subscribe to this video if it helps anybody. And don't blame your woman. Don't blame your mom, dad. Don't blame anybody. Just look at yourself in the mirror and just say, demand from yourself the life that you want, and demand from yourself how to treat yourself. Because if you demand from yourself, you'll treat yourself with the unconditional love that you're supposed to get from everybody else. Because it starts again with you. People will treat you how you allow them to treat you. Like if you allow yourself to get punched and kicked in the gut all the time, and dropped on the ground, you express anger and rage out, you're gonna get the anger and rage back. You get back what you put out. So focus on putting out the best version of yourself. All right, if you guys need some help, again, click on my profile. Y'all guys follow me. Y'all get cleanses, detoxes, one-on-one coaching, life coaching, lifestyle coaching, anything that you guys need, hit me up. I'm here for y'all. All right, peace.